Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So I'm finally getting to Rescue-ACE. I did mean to cover this video, or this deck rather, in a video a little bit sooner, but you know, with the MCS coming up, I had to get in by testing for that. So I ended up practicing not only, of course, a lot with Sprite, which I ended up taking to the event, but I was also messing around a lot with kashtira to get an idea of how good I felt the deck was and where its best choke points were and how to counter it, because I find that it's often easiest for me to learn how to play against the deck by playing a little bit with that deck. So, but excuse me. Anyway, now that we are done with all that testing for the time being, we can get to other decks like Rescue-ACE. Like I said, been quite eager to try this one out here. It's not fully complete. Archetype, so to speak. We are missing two key pieces of support that will be coming in a future set, but for the time being, the deck definitely is not awful. It's a really interesting deck to build, honestly, even more so than play, I think, because Rescue-ACE is an archetype that's entirely focused on the main deck. It doesn't actually have any extra deck cards, so as you can see, our extra deck here is fairly generic, although each of these cards do have sort of their own role they can play within the deck, right? But it's mostly about the Rescue-ACE monsters themselves. Mostly your URs, your Turbulence and your Hydrant are going to be the stars of the show. Hydrant not only allows you to add the Turbulence most often, but any Rescue-ACE monster potentially from your deck to your hand. It lets you activate Rescue-ACE cards the turn they are set. And furthermore, it also will allow you to set up a lot of your plays with the spell cards. Like, for example, I was going to say Rescue, but really all of them have additional effects that activate if you have Hydrant on the field, which is, of course, very, very nice. So, in that regard, Hydrant ends up being very, very important for the deck, and we want to have a lot of ways to make sure that we can get to it. So, we're, of course, playing a playset, but we're also playing 1-for-1, and a couple of copies of Piri Reis Map to help find it. There are some other cards you can play as well if you wanted to have additional ways to search it. I did test out the, which Gizmek is it? Here we go, this one, Gizmek, Naganaki. I did test out this card for a little while in the deck. This is pretty much just Lone Fire Blossom for Hydrant, basically. But, I don't know, I don't like the fact that you have to use your normal summon for it, and I also kind of don't like the fact that it can get hit with stuff like, you know, Call by the Grave. So, ultimately, I decided to play the Piri Reis Map instead. You could also play Small World. Oops, sorry about that. That's my alarm going off there. Apologies about that. Anyway, yeah, you could also play Small World in this deck, because the cool thing about the Rescue-ACE monsters is that they're all fire, but they are, well, a few of them are different types. There's basically machines and warriors, but they all basically share only the attribute, right? Between the fires and the warriors, I mean the machines and the warriors rather, they all have different levels, they all have different stats, and yeah, they have the different types, as I said. So, yeah, that pretty much covers, again, Hydrant, the most important aspect, one of the most important aspects of the main deck, the other being the Turbulence here. Turbulence can be special summoned by banishing a couple of Rescue-ACE monsters from your graveyard. This is an activated effect, so this can't get negated, just so you're aware. And the big effect here is that during your main phase, you can set up to 4 Rescue-ACE quick play spells or normal traps from your deck directly. So that obviously provides a ton of advantage and is pretty much the cornerstone of the Rescue-ACE strategy, is to, on turn 1, summon out the Turbulence, set 4 directly from your deck, gain a lot of advantage in doing so, and then use that advantage to grind your opponent out of the game. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of these cards that we're going to be setting. We have Rescue, which says you can target a Rescue-ACE monster in your graveyard, or if you control Hydrant, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard instead, and special it to your field. So, rewarding your own stuff is pretty good. Having the option to reward your opponent's stuff is definitely pretty great. We have 2 copies of Alert as well. This can add a Rescue-ACE from your graveyard to your hand, but if you have Hydrant, you actually get to add it from your deck to your hand instead. So, Conditional Rhoda, also not too shabby. We have Contain, which is a monster effect negate. That also says the monster can't attack, and if you have Hydrant, it can't be used as a material for an extra deck summon either. Not too bad. Extinguish destroys a monster, and if you control Hydrant, your opponent can't activate monsters with the same name, or effects of monsters with the same name for the whole turn. So this can actually be not only destroy, but also potentially a negate in the same card, which is pretty good. And then Reinforce, this is one that is kind of optional. Like, you don't have to play this one, but I like having a 5th name just in case you like draw one of the trap cards, right? It's good to be able to still set 4 from the deck, and this card is not too shabby. Reinforce says you can target a Rescue-ACE monster you control, gains 1500 attack and defense, it's unaffected by your opponent's monster effects, and the next time it would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. You can also banish this card from your graveyard to reset one of your quick play spell cards. You can also recycle your quick play spell or your trap cards through their field spell, Rescue-ACE HQ. As long as your opponent has a monster out, it's going to buff all your Rescue-ACEs by 500. Gives you an extra normal summon for a Rescue-ACE monster. Very relevant and helpful to get the Hydrant and then following up with an Airlifter. Very, very nice to do that. And then also, you can, once per turn, shuffle back 4 of your banished or in the graveyard, I guess, Rescue-ACE cards and then draw cards. So you can immediately, not immediately, but after you use them, rather, you can reload the Rescue-ACE cards that you're setting with the Turbulence and then set them directly back from the deck again. So that's kind of the long plan, I guess, for the Rescue-ACE archetype here. But I find that usually the first wave of cards being set from your deck is typically enough to get you the game there. And then, yeah, I mean, otherwise we're just filling out the rest of the main deck with, of course, the Master Duel tax of Maxx the Ash Blossom called by Crossout. We have a Nibiru, of course, as well. Got a couple of triple tax, Imperms, and Rhoda helps find the Airlifter. Airlifter can find the spells, not that spell, but these spells, which can help you again, especially the field spell, normal summoning the Hydrant and then searching the Turbulence, and then making your plays from there. So we got quite a few games to show off here, and I'm really eager to show off one in particular. I kind of teased it on Twitter a little bit. It's going to be a 23-turn duel, so we'll definitely go ahead and take a look at that first. But before we do, let's break down the list card by card, and then we will see some gameplay. So we're playing 3 Rescue-ACE Hydrant, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom, and a Joyous Swing, 2 Rescue-ACE Impulse, 3 Rescue-ACE Airlifter, 1 Rescue-ACE Fire Attacker, 1 Rescue-ACE Fire Engine, 2 Rescue-ACE Turbulence, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1/1/4/1, 2 Triple Tactics Talent. I had triple on the brain, so. But we have 1 Pot of Prosperity, 2 Piri Reis Map, 1 Rescue-ACE HQ, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 Rescue, 2 Alert, 3 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Contain, 1 Extinguish, 1 Reinforce. That's going to be for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Mudragon of the Swamp, 1 Linkuriboh, 1 Relinquished Anima, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Knightmare Phoenix, 1 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, 1 Hiita the Fire Charmer Ablaze, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Proxy F Magician, which can fusion summon. That's why we have the Mudragon in here. We have a Knightmare Unicorn, Decode Talker Heatsoul. This can be made, by the way, with like Linkuriboh plus Sunlight Wolf, or you could also do Almiraj plus IP. We're playing Apollusa, Accesscode Talker, Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, and Firewall Dragon Darkfluid Terahertz. Alright, that'll do it for our extra deck. And yeah, let's see that gameplay now. Okay, so like I said, our first game is going to be a 23-turn duel. Might even be the longest I featured on the channel. And who else would have a 23-turn duel but a stun opponent? Not only that, but my opponent's actually playing a 60-card stun deck. So take a look at our opening hand here. It's definitely not too shabby. I'm going to start off with the Reinforcement of the Army to add the Rescue-ACE Airlifter. Gonna normal summon that, which lets me add a Rescue-ACE spell. I'll add the field spell, the HQ. That'll allow me to normal summon the Hydrant. Hydrant I'm gonna add Fire Engine with because I already have the Turbulence in hand. I'm then going to link off the Hydrant for the Almiraj. I'm doing this in order to get 2 Rescue-ACE cards in my graveyard for Turbulence. Then I can link off the Almiraj and the Airlifter for a Sunlight Wolf. Now I can use Turbulence to banish the Airlifter and the Hydrant and special it to the field. I'm going to special it in the same zone that Sunlight Wolf points to, just to kind of get back my Almiraj. It's not vital that you do that, but it's a little nice thing you can do. Also going to special the Fire Engine because I specialed a Rescue-ACE monster. Using the Turbulence to set 4 cards for my deck, I'm going to set Extinguish, Rescue, Contain, and then also the Reinforce. So basically setting the 3 trap cards, and then I like setting the Rescue in case I need to get back one of my cards, or if the Fire Engine is able to summon a Hydrant via its effect, Basically, if my opponent special summons a monster, I can pull a level 4 lower Rescue-ACE from my hand, deck, or graveyard. I can potentially, again, special the Fire Hydrant. Then I can use Rescue as like a graveyard disruption, right? If my opponent needs a monster in the graveyard, for whatever reason, I can use the Rescue to summon it to my side of the field. So, pretty ideal and typical turn 1 setup here. If you open Airlifter plus Hydrant, this will be what your turn 1 in board looks like. Minus the Fire Engine, we just happen to open the extra search there, so... Alright, so in their 60 card stun deck, my opponent managed to find one of their 3 evenly matches. So, good for them, obviously not that great for me. I'll chain the Reinforce to give my Turbulence a boost, and I guess I'll just keep that. Because it's a big monster, and I figure that's good to have against stun. Where if they don't have the Moon Mirror Shield, it'll matter, so... Yeah, now they're just going to Duality for the Inspector Border. Activating a Necro Valley, which actually matters a lot against this... against Rescue-ACE, because that means I can't summon another Turbulence as long as it's on the field, so... Wonderful. Alright. The Hydrant here, I'm just going to go ahead and normal summon, but of course they have There Can Be Only One. Why wouldn't they, right? Thankfully, they don't have a Moon Mirror Shield or a Mirror Force here, so I can just use Turbulence to battle over the border. I'll then set a couple more Quick Way spells for my deck before passing back over to my opponent. Unfortunately, that evenly did hit my field spell, so I no longer have a way to recycle the rest of my back rows back into my deck. But it doesn't seem like my opponent's really got too much of anything here. Just gonna have to battle with this Turbulence because of not only There Can Be Only One, but also Necroville. I cannot summon this other one. I'll grab another Quick Way spell, basically just kind of thinning out my deck, and because I set another alert, I figured I'd try to use them, but then I was like, oh yeah, duh, Necro Valley, right. So, alright, opponent is going to finally rip the Raigeki, which will go ahead and take care of this Turbulence, and again, not really able to summon another one right now, which is a bit of a problem. Drawing an Impulse, I'm actually just going to go ahead and normal summon this and enter battle phase. I did briefly consider using 1-for-1 to pull the Hydrant, but... You know, rotating for a Rescue-ACE monster doesn't really do a lot for me here. I'd rather just try to get more damage in on my opponent's life points if possible. Thankfully, they're not topping any monsters, probably because they're on a 60-card deck, and they're really not playing that many monsters they can normal summon within those 60 cards. So, we're just about there, just one more attack, but oh, they managed to rip the next Inspector Border, and they even have a Moon Mirror Shield to go along with it. So, that obviously puts me in a very difficult position here, right? I was so close to victory, but right at the last second they managed to get it. Alright, so here I'm going to use the 1-for-1. I figured I could do maybe a bit of deck thinning, get this last Hydrant out of my deck. I can add another Rescue-ACE card from my deck to my hand by doing so. Gonna flip up the Airlifter and then Link Summon, going for the Knightmare Phoenix here. Gonna go ahead and use the Knightmare Phoenix's effect to pop the Necro Valley. Then I can use my Rescue to bring back the Turbulence in my graveyard. I can't summon the Turbulence from my hand because it's an activated effect, and Inspector Border. Because I've already used the Knightmare Phoenix effect, I can't use another effect. So, fortunately, summoning the Turbulence actually doesn't really do much for me here because, yeah, Inspector Border can just battle right over it. So, at this point, I realized Imperm. If I can get an Infinite Impermanence and set it in the zone... the column, rather, that's across from the Moon Mirror Shield, I can potentially negate it and the border and then swing in for lethal. Oh, I thought I could go for Knightmare Unicorn here, but then I was like, oh yeah, Inspector Border. So, rip me, not able to get it, and yeah, they can just battle right over it. So, I mean, I am still at 7,700, so at this point, I'm really just needing to get this Imperm, and that's all I need for lethal here. Well, that's also assuming they don't have a Mirror Force type card, which they were playing in the list, but none of these 3 set cards were Mirror Force cards earlier, and I don't believe any of the back rows have changed. So, honestly, it's probably stuff like Skill Drain, Rivalry goes, and that's not really impacting me, because There Can Be Only One is already limiting me from being able to do much of anything anyway. In fact, I'd be willing to bet one of them is Skill Drain that my opponent... Well, I guess that a card is limited, so maybe not, but... Maybe my opponent has Skill Drain down and he can't pay for it. And that would definitely be a possibility because they're at exactly 1,000, but... I mean, yeah, here, like I said, I'm just setting monsters, just waiting. I'm waiting for this Imperm. And the thing that's really saving me here is, again, just the fact that my opponent's back rows are full. Finally top deck the Emperor, and like I said, I'm going to set it in the zone across from the Moon Mirror Shield. I'm going to take a little bit of damage here, but that's totally fine, because like I said, just going to end the duel on the next turn here. There goes a Dogmatica Punishment, one of the cards that would have helped my opponent here had they been able to set it. Going to flip up Imperm, negate the border, and of course this is the column that the Moon Mirror Shield is in. Because the border is negated, I get to special the Turbulence. Going to move to battle phase. The Moon Mirror Shield activates, but then fizzles, and we smack in for lethal. What a satisfying victory. And that just goes to show that, like, I don't know, as long as you can have that thought in your mind of, like, I have an out, like, as long as you know what the out is, like, why not keep going towards it, right? There are a lot of people who might not have been patient enough to pass back and forth for that long, but as long as I know I have a line to victory, I'm not going to concede. I only concede when I know for sure that I'm going to lose the duel, and that was not the case, and as we can see, that was definitely not the case, as we did manage to finally win after all that time. We got a couple more duels to show off here, a few games against kashtira that I'm eager to show off, so let's go ahead and see the first one of those. Alright, as mentioned, we have a couple of games against Cash that we're going to take a look at. This is going to be the first one of those here. And they are going to be taking the first move. And unfortunately, we did not manage to open really any kind of disruption at all. So, going to have to hope their turn one isn't too bad. Prosperity for 6 is going to reveal Rise Heart, called by Imperm, another Rise Heart, Fenrir, and Feather Duster. They end up taking the Fenrir. So, Fenrir usually means at least something. I mean, even Fenrir by itself is definitely something. They're going to use Fenrir to add Rise Heart, activating the Rise Heart effect to banish their Unicorn. Banish 3 from my deck. Looks like it's Contain, Nib, and Impulse. Contain being the negate, I believe. Yes. Era set 2. So they didn't have too much, but the Era is going to be able to pull another Fenrir out of the deck there. So, I'm going to start by normally the Hydrant. I'll activate Alert. Opponent's going to use the Ash Blossom, but that's totally fine. Because 1, I have the Crossout Designator, and 2, even if they had an out for that, I still have the Hydrant Search. Yeah, if you open Hydrant plus Alert, you're kind of Ash-proof in a lot of ways, because either way you're going to get to search the Turbulence if you didn't already open it. Here I'm going to use the Rescue to grab that Ash Blossom out of my opponent's graveyard before going for the Knightmare Phoenix. I want to see if I can not only pick off one of these back rows, but I believe, is that my other... No, I actually have like a lot of Rescue-ACE cards in the graveyard, so never mind. But yeah, I wanted to see if I could pick off a back row, and also, yes, I very much wanted to proc the Fenrir if possible before dropping the Turbulence down on the board, and thankfully I was able to do that. So, opponent's got a Called By to take out the Hydrant. That's fine. It's definitely a little annoying, but it's ultimately not like the end of the world or anything. Alright, Turbulence is dropping itself down onto the field. Love that animation, by the way. It's really cool. And we get to some of this Fire Engine we had in hand as well. Gonna use Turbulence to set for. Fenrir has already activated, like I said, so I'm not really concerned about it. And again, this is why I like having the Reinforce in the deck as well. In case, for whatever reason, you open or lose out on one of your trap cards, you can still set a full 4 off the Turbulence, which of course feels pretty great. So, I'll run over the Fenrir. Can't take care of the Era just yet, but I'm not really concerned about it, because we have the Extinguish here to potentially help take care of it. I let it activate here. Let it grab the Unicorn so that way I could activate the Fire Engine, but I can just use the Extinguish to take out the Unicorn on the same chain link. That way it won't have a chance to activate either its effects, the Extra Deck Rip or the Search, although the Extra Deck Rip doesn't mean anything against this matchup. Here, my opponent's going to use their Era to go into an Arise Heart, which was a little bit surprising to me. And yeah, they're going to move to battle phase. I'm waiting until the damage step. The replay doesn't show this, right? But I did wait until my opponent was in the damage step before activating. Whoops, not that one. This one. Reinforce. Reinforce being the trap card that allows me to boost the stats of one of my Rescue-ACE monsters by 1500. So, because I waited until the damage step specifically, that means that the Arise Heart is not able to use its quick effect, because in the damage step, the only things that can be activated outside of specific effects are effects that alter attack and defense or counter trap cards. So here I'm able to make sure that I'm able to take out the Rise Heart. The attach effect is mandatory, so that'll activate the damage step, but yeah. Opponent is going to activate the Curry card, Divine Carnage. It's the first time I've been hit with this all format, which is kind of surprising, but as I go to try to bring back my Fire Engine, I can just use the Rescue that we said earlier to bring it back myself, and that way they won't be able to steal it. Alright, moving on over to my turn here, we managed to draw an Impulse. I'm going to go ahead and normal summon that, and then link it off with the Fire Engine in order to grab the Hiita. Basically, I want to go for an Accesscode line because I can find lethal here. Going to use the Hiita with the Ash Blossom to summon the Knightmare Unicorn. No cards in hand to actually put the Curry card back in the deck, but that's fine. I can go ahead and link it off with the Turbulence and go for, like I mentioned, the Accesscode Talker. Going for the Knightmare Unicorn anyway to get the access code up to 5,300. Didn't need to here. I totally forgot my opponent was at 7k, but... And then using my last face down, the last alert here, to return the Turbulence to hand. I can then summon the Turbulence again off of its own effect, back to the field once more. And even if our opponent were at 8k, we would have an OTK here. So that was a prime example of how Rescue-ACE likes to play overall, right? Grinding our opponent completely out of advantage so they have nothing left on hand or field, and then executing an OTK line just afterward. Beautiful. That is very, very textbook Rescue-ACE gameplay. So, yeah, we still have another duel against Kashtira, and then one more after that against, I think, Sprite, or it was a different deck. We'll see. Let's see the next Cash game first. Alright, yep, here is our other duel against Kashtira. Let's see what we got. I think, yeah, we open up this time. We're going to be taking the first turn. And, yeah, we opened Hydrant, Turbulence, the Field Spell, Alert. This is a fantastic opening hand. We have multiple lines here. Going to use Hydrant to add the Fire Engine, and then I get to add the Airlifter because the Hydrant's on the field. Activating the Field Spell to get another normal summon for the Airlifter. Airlifter effect. I get to even chain the Fire Engine here before the Turbulence even comes down. Airlifter is going to add Rescue. Alright, now we're going to link off the Hydrant for the Almiraj. Basically doing that same line to set up. We need at least one other card in the yard for the Turbulence. But I don't even necessarily have to banish the Hydrant here. I get to just bring it back instead. And then banish the 2 spells for Turbulence. And then I can just use Turbulence to set 4. And I could link summon here. And I wanted to stop and think about this, actually, because I didn't think about this until after the fact, because what I'm going to end up doing is setting the Imperm and then going to end of phase, but I wonder if I should have, like, excuse me. I feel like if I'd had an extra card that would have stayed in my hand, I would have Almiraj and Airlifted into IP, but I like having the Fire Engine to pull more stuff out of the deck. Turbulence does actually have a quick play effect to destroy the opponent's cards if they cause any of our cards to leave the field, and having Hydrant makes all of our cards better. So, yeah, I think this was fine. Excuse me. Sorry, my throat's a little bit coarse today. Alright, I can use the Airlifter to pull out an Impulse, and then I can sack off the Impulse for, what is it, the Fire Attacker. I could have just summoned the Fire Attacker too, but I was like, why not? We'll select one Impulse into the yard. But it's going to Ogre, and what do they hit? Ogre is always so irrelevant. They banish Turbulence, the other Turbulence. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, they're going to try to overlay for Big Eye here, but I get to just use the Contain to go ahead and negate that. And Big Eye can't attack anyway because of its own effect, but now it can't attack because of Contain either. And my opponent also, this actually might end up coming up, my opponent can't use it as an Xyz material, so if they somehow battle with a different Xyz monster, they can't throw a Zeus on the Big Eye. That's actually exactly what they're going to try to do as they go for the Titanic Moth, but as they move to battle phase, I'm just going to use the Extinguish to pop the Moth there. And then, yeah, they're just going to concede because this is probably an even more textbook Rescue-ACE game where we didn't even like have to do a back and forth this time, slowly grinding them out of advantage. We just kind of like massively parried them in advantage right from our turn 1 and ultimately pretty much shut them down from doing much of anything as a result. We even still have the Imperm face down for an additional negate. And don't forget that also the field spell also would recycle all of those Rescue-ACE spells that we were using before earlier. So awesome. We have one more duel to show off. Let's go ahead and go straight into it. And yes, our last duel is going to be against Twin Sprite. Totally tacked out for the meta. They're playing Kurikar Divine Incarnate. They've got a couple of thrusts for Herald of the Abyss and just other generally good targets. Looks like we're going to be taking the first move here, opening with Airlifter, Turbulence, Callby, Rescue, and Alert. Okay, starting with Airlifter for, yeah, the field spell, because it's the last spell we don't have. Gonna activate the field spell anyway, and yeah, this is actually pretty awkward because we don't have access to Hydrant. You can see how important access to Hydrant is. Not just in general, but just for like your combo line, right? Because we can't go to Almiraj, we can't get the Rescue-ACE cards in the graveyard to summon the Turbulence, so kind of just have to set, I'm going to set the Rescue and the Callby and then pass. I'm just going to droplet the Airlifter, which is totally fine, not sure I really understand that, but normal summoning the Kissekeel, especially the Carrot, overlaying those into the Gigantic Sprite. Moving to battle phase, which is kind of curious, not even activating the Gigantic effect. Oh, because we're going for Zeus. Our opponent wants the Zeus here. I thought this was greedy. I honestly thought this was greedy. I'm going to special the Airlifter in response to the Downer, just to make sure I get the search off before the Zeus hits the field and wipes the board, causing me to miss the chain link or whatever. But yeah, I thought the Zeus was greedy. I don't know why my opponent didn't just like go off and do plays. I guess they were scared of my face sounds, but I don't know. As you can see, it was just two pretty innocuous ones here. I'll chain the Callby on the Gigantic just cause. I don't think it's gonna matter, but alright, now we gotta play into a Zeus, which actually is not the worst position to be in. They only have one board wipe. I just have to force the one. I'm going to try to do that with the Rescue here to special summon the other Airlifter. And yeah, I wanted to trick him into thinking I was going for like a rank 4 or something, but I had no real plans. I mean, I have Link monsters I can go into, but nothing in mind per se to take out the Zeus. But because the Zeus has now used its last material, I can summon and pretty comfortably use the Turbulence effect. Setting the 3 trap cards, because I am actually out of spells, I end up drawing them all, but I'll go ahead and throw down one of the alerts along with it. As soon as the Jet is normal summoned, I'm just going to pop it with the Extinguish. That way my opponent will be able to follow up with another Sprite monster from their hand. During their end phase, I'm going to use the alert to wheel the Airlifter back to hand, that way I can activate the other alert on my next turn if I need to. This Piri Reis Map is a godsend. We finally get access to Hydrant. Gonna immediately normal summon that Hydrant, activate the effect for the other Turbulence. Activate the alert to add the Fire Engine from deck to hand because we have the Hydrant. And we get to use a card I've been dying to use forever now, and that's Relinquished Anima. Because of our opponent's zone placement, I get to eat up their Anima, summon this other Turbulence. To be fair, I would have had lethal anyway, because I could have summoned this Fire Engine and then used Reinforce on one of the Turbulences and battled over, and that still would have been 8,500, yes, after battling over the Zeus with one of the Turbulences. But here, I get to just smack them with the 2 Turbulences and then the Anima that has eaten their own Zeus, just because of that nice little board zone placement on the board there. So there we go. That's gonna go ahead and do it for these games. Hope you enjoyed them. I actually had a blast playing this deck, and I don't think it's like the worst right now. Obviously, it's not optimized, but once we get the Preventer and Emergency, you better believe this deck gets a lot better. So be on the lookout for that. But that'll do it for now. Let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So All in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.